It's sometimes hard for people to imagine a world without other people making decisions for them, and moreover, imagining a way for things to be run that are different than the way that they have been established and running for a long period of time. So when you tell people that, for instance, what would cure what would cure all healthcare problems worldwide is simply a change from a company or an organization or even an institution paying for your healthcare, changing that to just having the individual pay for their healthcare themselves, at least non-catastrophic care, they wouldn't understand. They're like, well, medical care is so expensive now. How in the world are people supposed to afford it if someone else isn't paying for them? And it's really kind of silly in a lot of different ways. I mean, but the most easy way to point out how silly it is just to point out that you are paying for it. Yeah, I mean, this is the most expensive. America has the most expensive healthcare in the world, and guess what? You are paying for it. You're paying for it because your employer is withholding your wages. Your government is withholding your wages. They're taking your money from you, and they're paying for healthcare for yourself or others. And if they're not doing that, then you're unemployed, and hopefully you were once employed, and it was taken from you at that time. And so, it's just basically moved around and redistributed. So that's the first part of it. So, I mean, yes, you are paying for it. So it's really not a question of who will pay for it, because you're already paying for it. And people are paying through the nose for it. And the second part of it, people can't conceive of paying their own medical bills because they're so high. Well, why are they so high? And they're so high precisely because they don't pay for them. And that's it seems contradictory, maybe counterintuitive, but that's actually the way things really are. If you look at anything else the market provides, from cars to consumer electronics to, up until recently housing, like houses are much cheaper to build than they used to be. I mean, we have like such better techniques and everything else for making houses. We can just stamp them out, and they're good quality, and especially for the money and all that kind of stuff. And even food, given the average person's wage or the median wage in this country, is a lot cheaper than it was. So the amount of time that it takes to earn, say, a whole chicken has gone down precipitously, like throughout the past couple of centuries. And the reason why it's been specifically that time period and not a whole lot before that, although humankind has always been developing throughout the time that we've existed, is because of the free market. And it's hard to conceive of that, especially in healthcare and different things like that. But one time, and in other areas of society, the free market works just fine. And it was that way in healthcare up until about 40 years ago, when Medicare kind of took hold on the LBJ and started changing everything. Now you might think, oh, well, the American system is free market. This is what the free market does. Everyone's profiting, and like everything's so expensive because people are profiting, and blah 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 blah. Well, that sounds all well and good, aside from the fact that we don't have a free market in healthcare. And there's two ways of explaining why that is, but really, right off the top, 50%, as in 1/2 of all medical dollars in the United States, are paid for by the federal government. Now, that means that we're at the very most half free market. So that's a mixed economy by any definition. There's no way you can say that we have a free market. Just right there. 50% of all healthcare dollars are spent on people receiving Medicare or Medicaid. And of course, that doesn't mean that it's majority of the country or half the country, because remember, Medicare encompasses people who are using a lot more medical dollars, so it makes sense that Medicare recipients are going to be receiving more healthcare dollars. Not even to mention the fact that, of course, Medicare is run quite terribly. Their cost per patient for administrative fees is actually much higher than insurance. Regardless of that fact, The subject here is whether or not we have a free market, and we obviously do not. On top of that, Medicare has 100,000 pages. 100,000 pages of rules and regulations. And these apply to any organization that services Medicare customers.